Welcome, welcome. All right, it is now 11:30. Let's go ahead and jump in. My name is George Hanshaw. I'm a psychology and MSIDT, so instructional design and technology instructor here at Los Angeles Pacific University, as well as the digital learning solutions director. So we have a lot of fun working with these AI assistants. And we have two amazing people here to give us a student perspective of these interactions that they have and AI in general as well. We have Alyssa Imes and Jessica Clark. So, Alyssa, can you introduce yourself and say hello?
Course. Hi, everyone. So, my name is Alyssa, and I recently graduated in December with my master's in public health at Los Angeles Pacific University.
Awesome. And Jessica, how about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Clark, and I am currently a student in the MSIDT program at LAPU. I'm hoping to graduate next semester.
Awesome. You are flying through that. So, AI is embedded within our courses within the MSIDT program. We have DESI, which is a design assistant, and then we have the course assistants throughout. And in all of the programs that Alyssa was in, Spark was in every single course as an assistant there as well. So, what really was your initial thought before you even knew about Spark or tried it about AI being added to your courses? Where were you at with all of this?
I can jump in.
Mhm.
Um, I was excited initially because I felt like this was permission to use AI because I'm definitely like a rule follower and I don't want to do something that I shouldn't. So while I know how to use AI tools and I like to use them, it's something that scared me being a student. I don't want to use something and then get in trouble because I did something wrong. So for me, I was excited that we were given a tool that I knew I was able to play with. So that was my initial reaction.
I think for me, I was mostly curious because I'd never had the opportunity to use any AI tools for my previous degree. So I was interested to see how it would be integrated and the capabilities and limitations of the tool. And so I definitely spent a lot of time at the beginning testing it out to see exactly, okay, what information would it give me, wouldn't it give me, and how could I implement it best? So I think curiosity was the biggest thing for me because it was new. So, but it's been a great experience so far.
That's interesting because you both kind of brought up some great points. So curiosity and permission, really,
Mm.
right? So permission given, let's go. Let's have some fun with these things and see where they take us. So as you were given the permission and kind of your curiosity was piqued on how they came into the coursework, how have you actually used the different AI tools within your coursework?
So I've used it in kind of two different ways, to brainstorm and to clarify the course assignments. So to brainstorm in the public health program, there was a lot of opportunity to pick like our own topics. So I would use Spark to help me brainstorm ways to do that. Like, hey, what are some health topics that are like common in Italy? Because I love Italy. So, and then it would help me brainstorm some, common topics. So that was my biggest way was brainstorming. The other way was for clarity. Um, Oftentimes in assignments, I wasn't sure what to do with certain directions. Sometimes there was a word thrown in there that I just wasn't sure what direction to go in. So I would copy and paste like that one direction, put it into Spark and say, can you just dumb this down for me? I need some help. And it would tell me what to do. This is what the assignment is asking you to do. So I feel like rather than going to the professor for something simple like, hey, I just don't understand this one little point, I just would go to Spark, like, hey, clarify this for me really quick. And it would.
It's really an interesting use of the tool, I think, to kind of give you that bigger concept, of what you're looking for within a data set, like specifically looking at, Italy and how that would relate to your research. And so I think that's a really interesting way to do it. For me, I use it a lot in finding materials that I've forgotten where they're located because I don't know why. It doesn't matter how clearly anything is organized. I'll read through tons of material and I'll know it, but I'll want to refresh my memory about one part of it. But I will not be able to figure out which document it was in, which book it was in, and it takes me a little while and figure that out, and then I'll end up spending a lot of time looking for it. But with the use of Spark, I'm able to go and ask those questions to get that memory refresh a little bit faster so that I could focus mostly on my assignments and then continuing through coursework and not spend 20 minutes trying to find the document that I needed like half a paragraph of information about. And so that's been really useful for me throughout the program.
That's super interesting. Let me piggyback on that for a second. So if you have the opportunity to just use this assistant to help you find content or restate in a way that's more understandable, um, do you feel that that gives you more of an opportunity to engage with the professor on stuff that's more important and not feel, because if you're coming to a professor and you say, hey, kind of what does that mean? There's, you might have a certain feeling about going to them for that, right? Because,
Mm.
man, they're giving me a grade. I don't want them to feel like I don't know what I'm doing. You can have all this
Mhm.
stuff in the back of your head, right? None of it might be true, but, it's still in the back of our head. We're being judged, right?
Sure.
So did it help with that to create that bond connection with your instructor?
It does for me a lot because it helps me be able to form much more informed questions, just so I feel a bit more confident knowing exactly what information I'm wanting to get from the instructors, knowing that I've asked my basic level questions of okay, what is this term, or where is the information from Spark. But then when I engage in conversations with the instructor, I'm able to get more concrete and more in-depth conversations because we don't have to spend a lot of time going, where is the assignment again? Or what am I supposed to be doing? I can't remember. And so we're able to have higher quality interactions because I can do more of the repetitive kind of questions or my own research questions through the tool. How about you, Alyssa?
I totally agree. I was at a different university for my undergrad, and I remember being in like a 300 person class, and there is no way I'm going to raise my hand in that class and ask, like, what step was that? What bullet point? How do I do that? So, having an assistant, if I had an assistant in my undergrad, I think I would have learned a lot better because I think without the assistant, it takes away. I just don't ask those questions. So I never knew. I never knew how to complete those simple tasks because I'm too scared to look dumb and ask.
Mm,
So with the assistant, I think I honestly can learn a lot better because I can get through the very simple tasks.
mm. See, it's interesting. I'm the kind of person who always asks the dumb questions. I have no fear of being, people having a bad opinion about me because I'm asking something that's maybe simple. However, what I really get out of Spark is the depth of information and the different kind of rephrasing of information that I might have already read because I'm a person who loves data and loves more information just for the sake of information. And at a certain point, I run out of documents to read. So I like having Spark so I can really dig into topics and
Mhm.
ask the specific questions from, the broader knowledge base it has access to or whatever knowledge base it has access to. And that way I'm not pestering professors going, okay, tell me more about this thing. I can query Spark for that as well. And in that way, not be annoying.
Tell me more. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
tell
know,
me more. Exactly.
right, I'm going to tell on myself right now. So as the prof in the course, sometimes I'll get a question from a student and I was like, okay, I think I understand what they're asking. And because I want to give the best answer that I can give them, make sure that and the best answer you can give is one that actually answers a question, right? So I'll paste the question into Spark just to see if there's something that I might be missing and ask it to interpret the question and what it's asking, then it does a fantastic job with that.
Mm.
Because we want to do the best, right? Whether we're a student, professor, whoever we are, we want to do the absolute best for anything we're doing. So that's kind of interesting that we use it in the same ways.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. So we've talked about so Sparks in every course. That's our Nectar assistant. And do you use any other AI help assistants within your learning? Because I know that there's a lot of tools out there.
For me, when I going through the MSIDT program, I haven't felt the need to go to any other AI assistants for help along with coursework because most of the questions I normally have about are about course content and assignments specifically. And so for me, I felt it helpful to go to Nectar's uh, assistant, which is Spark in LAPU, to ask those questions because at least I know I'm getting information that's specifically about the course and not something that's out of scope for what I'm supposed to be learning. Um, and creating graphics, though, because I've had my bachelor's in web and digital design, I'll use some AI assistants to create things like infographics or other kinds of material that I'm wanting to present. And that's usually how I use AI tools.
So I use a lot of AI tools like in my personal life and my work life, but in my student life, like I said, rule follower, I feel like there's a gray area. I would never use any tool besides Spark because I just never wanted to do something that would get me in trouble. So I feel like from a student perspective, Spark was able to walk me through whatever I needed, the brainstorming, getting clarity. Um, Outside of being a student, yes, I would use other tools, but in courses, Spark answers all my questions.
Well, that's really interesting to hear because we had a question in a previous, not a panel, but a previous session that we just had where that was asked. Do you think that Spark is enough? Do you see him going elsewhere? So that kind of
Mhm.
answers that question. Thank you
Mhm.
for that. And I think one tool that I've seen used is like Grammarly, things
Mm.
like that that help with, writing and different opportunities like that. So appreciate your candor with those. Appreciate it. Then, so was there? Can you give a specific example of when AI Spark may have helped or actually hindered your learning? So how's it affecting what you're retaining, what you're keeping, and what you're able to use?
So I feel like we've talked a lot about how it's helped. So I was trying to brainstorm like how it's hindered. And the only thing I can come up with is it's not 100% accurate all the time. And that goes for any AI tool, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, or Spark. I feel like they all have the same problem where if it's like I want to know a question about maybe what was the topic in week one, it might give me a different topic because it's confusing it.
Mm.
So, but I noticed that in every AI tool I've ever used, and it's not all the time. It's just sometimes I worded my prompt wrong, so it doesn't fully understand what I was asking. But that's where I come in and say, hey, it's actually supposed to be this topic. And then it'll say, oh, my bad, so sorry, you're correct. Let me redo my answer. But that's where, as a student, your critical thinking comes in and you have to look at what it's giving you and make sure it's accurate. You can't just trust every single detail it gives you. So that would be a hindrance if I trusted it 100%. But if you use your critical thinking, then it's not a problem.
So does that
That's
help you question when you hear a professor or some other professional make statements about stuff to critically think through whatever an individual is saying too? Does that help with that?
I would say so. When I first went to college, my dad's biggest advice to me was like, do your own research. Don't trust everything you hear. Like being a student, like you can't trust your professors, like still research afterwards. So I think being a student,
Mhm.
I knew that going into college, and that's the same when you're using an AI tool. So I guess it helps with that because I was already aware of that from my undergrad, but now it's just in a different perspective.
Cool. What are your thoughts, Jessica?
I was also wondering the same thing because I do find it mostly positive to use Spark, but I think that the one hindrance that I find is that sometimes if I'm doing an assignment and I want to know, say, what elements to include in an assignment, it'll actually give me too many options of things to include. And so maybe an assignment, I'll have to write a paper about something, or I'll have to make a course module since I'm in the MSIDT program. And I'll say, okay, what do I need to include for the assignment? And it'll give me like 15 options going, you should include all these things in your report. And when I compare it to the assignment or the rubric, going, okay, I don't need to include all 15 categories, maybe just three. And now that being said, again, that's a one of those critical thinking elements where every person's going to be, designing their own assignments differently. What elements they think are pertinent to include or relevant to the topic is going to depend on the exact content of whatever is being written about or designed. And so again, like Alyssa said, it's a hindrance in a way because you actually have to think and use your own brain. But it does provide that context and those categories of going for me to choose from so that if I'm writing a report, I can choose what I think is relevant in the report for the assignment. And so in that way, it does help.
To a
Oh,
certain
oh,
extent, since you were saying that, it reminded me, like, as a student, if we went on Google and we're searching something and just trusted it, like, you still have to use your critical thinking. It's just this takes away, I would say, the time of us researching
Hmm.
through Google, and it's all here. But now you're just using your critical thinking in a different way.
Exactly.
great points. Yeah, we like to call it people-centered, technology-driven.
Hmm.
So we you can't just accept. And I love that point because we never should just accept, no matter if it's come from AI, some other authority, or anywhere else, right? We should, like you said, let's do our own research and figure it out. So those are some really great points. So then that kind of leads to a question then. So using AI tools, so we try to use Spark, set it up ethically and everything else where it's forcing critical thinking. But do you think that these tools are making you more independent or more reliant? How would you approach that question?
Do
This
you
is a
want to
hard
start?
question. I can.
Mhm.
I think it's both. I think I am becoming reliant on AI tools, but the AI tools, in a sense, are also making me more independent. So it's hard to explain. Like, I feel like I am more independent as a student because I'm able to use AI tools to do more of the brainstorming or like teamwork, collaborating rather than with peers. I can do it with AI tools, which makes me wanting to use it. I am reliant to it in a sense, but I also don't think that being reliant to it is a bad thing. I think there's ways it makes me independent, but but I also am reliant. I don't know. Jessica, what do you think?
I think that largely it makes me more independent, but I really don't think about it as in whether or not I'm reliant on AI specifically or not. For me, I view AI tools alongside many other tools that I have at my disposal. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm reliant on Google either, not Gemini, but Google in general. It's just one of the options I have available to me. And so I think that what AI does and what Spark does for me is that it enables me to move forward independently faster because I'm a person where I can see all the realm of possibilities in front of me and like thought bubbles, but sometimes I get lost in the woods of options. And what it helps me do is organize that and help me identify my own targets so that I can move more fluidly and freely forward with assignments or with things in general. So I'd say um, it's not making me more reliant, but it's just another thing in my toolbox where, and there are some assignments where I don't feel I need to use it, but there's a lot of times where I do use Spark, because it helps me move and forward and identify my own direction where I'm wanting to go with an assignment. And so that way, um, it's more an assistant, not a hindrance, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's a
I'm
great.
not sure if I answered your question correctly, but that's how I felt.
Those are great because the way I kind of think of it, it's a tool, right? And so if I'm a carpenter and I'm framing a house out, I'm going to have a nail gun, pop, 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 and I'm going to be putting nails in wood really quickly. But
Mhm.
there are those times when I just need the handheld hammer. But if I want to build it faster and better, I need to have the right tools.
Right. But you're still building it in the end. Like the nail
Yeah.
gun
Right.
doesn't build it for you. It's still just a tool.
You still build it in the end. Absolutely. You still have to have that critical thinking and know where all those parts and pieces fit.
Mhm.
100%. That's a great point. So we just have like 10 minutes left. So I want to ask the juicy question at the end here. So if you could design the ideal AI powered classroom, what would it look like?
So personally, my idea AI powered classroom would be like a game or a storyline that starts at week one using like Spark. And week one, we start with like the first part of the story. We do something with it. And then week two is kind of like, okay, you went through phase one. Now you have to get here. And I would like to use like an AI tool as a storyline through the entire course to learn each weekly topic rather than like, okay, here's a discussion, learn about the topic. I think it'd be fun to have us play with the AI tools to learn. Does that make sense?
It does. That's a very good idea. I'm going to remember that now. I'm gonna so, I had a very different idea actually. I still think there's value in having both AI and non-AI material to for students because for some people they have different learning styles and different preferences. And I think for me, if I'm viewing AI powered courses, I view tools like Spark, like a Lev Vygotsky style, more knowledgeable other. So, especially because in asynchronous courses or online courses, you don't always have those other classmates around you to who know or understood the lecture a little bit better than you to help you out. And I think that where Spark kind of fits in is that person or that thing to interact with as that more knowledgeable other to have that back and forth with. And then with the instructor still, in charge of everything, it's still available for students if necessary. But that's how I view it, where you have a course where you have a balance of course, different engagement methods, but having more integrated use of tools like Nectar Spark to engage with more consistently throughout each module so that it's something where you're engaging in that dialogue like you would have with classmates.
This is super interesting because you both came up with really interesting sounding courses, and they're both different, right? Which is amazing. So it seems like, let me kind of think into this a little bit. So if we were able to create something where Alyssa, you could have your gamification happening and it would just be an individual learning process for you, gamified and just having a good time. And then just if you had that significant other person there with you to help you along that learning journey, almost like the side-by-side coach, that'd be kind of cool to be able to just create those individual learning experience where people can have that. That would be so. Chloe, can we do? Is that tomorrow, next week's thing? Big thing that we're going to be able to do, Chloe? Is that next week?
I am always an encourager of having students be a part of the process. I think like when we're incorporating new technology like this, especially when we're working with so many different perceptions of like what AI should and should not be, I think inviting all the parties into that conversation to really design a solution that makes sense for everyone is a wonderful approach. So loving the ideas.
That's awesome. So we still have a couple minutes. So as we're making these awesome individualized learning uh, courses now. So each one's an individual course now, right? We're already blowing this up bigger. So our team motto is pour lighter fluid on it. So we're doing that right now.
I'm ready. Let's
Live,
go.
here we go. So we're still going to have an instructor engaged within this course, a professor in there.
Mhm.
What do you see their role as encouraging you to use these products, and what do you see their role in the how do you view your prof who's might be pro using it, very excited about using it? Does that give you a certain view of any type?
I don't see their role shifting that much, rather than for a discussion, for an example, rather than just responding like, and what do you think about this? I think in like a gamified scenario, they would, in a sense, be playing the game also. Like, okay, and in this scenario, like, then this gets thrown at you. Like, how do you solve it? So I think, in a sense, they're responding as if they're in the scenario rather than just speaking generally. So to me, their role doesn't change. Like, they're still there, they're still engaging. It's just changed, which I
Hmm.
think would be fun for them. I know I'm not a prof, but
For
Oh,
me, yeah, I view professors as they're facilitators of all the learning content, and so that includes encouraging students to read the textbooks, engage in discussion boards, or if that's included, watch the videos, and then also including the AI tools. And I think that professors, they generally want their students to succeed. Yeah, that's the main goals. They want everyone to be able to have the best outcomes regardless. And I think that the role of instructors in utilizing tools, AI tools in coursework is both as an encourager so that students don't, like Alyssa, don't have that fear of engaging with the tool because they're going to get, um, bad marks or have something happen because they've misused the tool. I think that had that instruction coming from professors directly would definitely help with student engagement. And I think that in the course that I suggested that professors are the main like master facilitators of the whole learning experience. And so these tools would then also free up more professor time from mundane questions going, what is this as a basic term emails to actually being able to engage with those students who may not be having the best outcomes compared to other students, or also helping those students who are running through course material increase their own learning. So I think it frees up instructor time to really do what they love doing, and which is engaging with students and teaching directly instead of just answering lots of emails about the same thing. So,
cool. And we have a question in the chat here. So do the chat bots feel to you as though they have a cultural or racial identity? So do they like Shannon talked about Miguel, which was a 6-year-old child for within one of the psychology courses. Does it have a particular feel, or does it just feel like or not? Does it just feel like an assistant? And Chloe, if you could speak into that as well.
as a student, I've only had the regular Spark that's in all of the courses, and I don't see any sort of like, I don't know if it's a he or she. I have no idea. I can't tell by the conversations. Um, with Shannon's, I know she talked about having the Miguel one and she demoed it earlier. I would assume like if you train it on that, then it will because that's what you're training it on. But from the regular course assistants that us as students are using, I haven't witnessed that.
yeah, and I use the same general course assistants. I have also used some as role plays, but I haven't noticed any specific cultural or racial identity anywhere in the assistant. For me, it's been mostly a general engagement in the context of the role play. It wasn't altered in any way to be too specific because it was meant to be more of general practice, is my
Okay.
understanding. And so that's how I felt when I engaged with it. It was just, the
I'm
course
super
assistant
glad to
side.
hear that because when we
So.
started, we didn't want to anthropomorphize these assistants in any
Mhm.
way. So, Chloe, did you want to have any final thoughts?
No, I was just going to say I agree with both of those responses. I have not heard that as a feedback that that was something that's inherently in it. But what I have heard is that I have heard instructors actually utilize Nectar to actually talk about the biases around how AI can produce, like I think Alyssa had mentioned earlier, how some responses are just inaccurate. And that's just a part of the teaching skill that we want to teach to students because like you said, any type of information, we want to make sure that we're always being critical of it. So I've heard teachers actually utilize as an opportunity to teach that rather than expect that.
And that brings us to time. So thank you both so much, Alyssa and Jessica. Thank you so much, and Chloe for chiming in as well. Thank you so much. And we're off to the next session, which is piloting general AI in marriage and family therapy.